And we're working on a deal where the European Union will agree to pay a 25% tariff on all Mercedes-Benz's, BMWs coming into our nation, so we appreciate that. I'm only kidding.
In the development of the China automotive market, especially in the premium segment for the long term.
For decades, German luxury automakers like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi have dominated the US market, symbolizing prestige, engineering mastery, and sophisticated design. But today, these industry powerhouses find themselves under immense pressure from President Donald Trump's unexpected tariff policies and the looming threat of even harsher trade restrictions. Trump made his stance clear. He would impose steep tariffs on imported auto parts, bluntly stating, "If you don't build it here, you won't sell it here." This declaration sent shockwaves through the global automotive industry, which had long relied on intricate international supply chains. The moment Trump's protectionist agenda hit the market, everything changed. The European Union agreed to a 25% tariff, and discussions quickly turned to extending that rate to all Mercedes-Benz and BMW vehicles. There was no formal press conference or lengthy negotiation, just a single post on social media that threw global markets into chaos. So, what exactly is happening that could drive the US to lose its long-standing German luxury giants? Let's dive deeper into the escalating conflict behind the headlines. Under the new tariffs, German automakers were left with two impossible choices: raise prices to unaffordable levels or absorb massive financial losses on every car sold. Neither option was sustainable. The result was an almost immediate decision to scale back or withdraw. But where did this all begin? Why did it escalate so quickly? Take BMW's sprawling Spartanburg, South Carolina plant, for example. It produces roughly 270,000 SUVs each year for both the US and global markets. Meanwhile, Mercedes assembles its popular GLE and GLS models in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Audi, though still heavily reliant on imports, had gained strong traction in the American market with its high-end sedans and SUVs. However, with the sudden implementation of tariffs, up to 25% on vehicles and as high as 200% on essential components like engines, electronic systems, and digital dashboards, production costs skyrocketed by thousands of dollars per car. Passing these extra costs to consumers would have made prices unsustainable, collapsing demand. Absorbing the losses, on the other hand, would have been financial suicide. Faced with these grim options, halting production or exiting the market became the only logical path. The shock was immediate. When the news broke online early one morning, car dealerships across the country were thrown into disarray. Showrooms full of gleaming German cars suddenly stood still. No customers, no deposits, only uncertainty. Questions arose about warranties, spare parts, and long-term maintenance. Even though some production had been localized, most critical parts still came from Germany, Slovakia, Mexico, and other nations. With tariffs of up to 200% on those components, the entire business model collapsed overnight. Production costs surged, supply chains unraveled, and panic meetings filled the boardrooms of Stuttgart and Munich. Yet even after multiple emergency discussions, the outlook remained bleak. Increasing prices would kill demand, but maintaining current pricing meant swallowing enormous losses. The crisis rippled far beyond the car makers themselves. Banks, logistics companies, parts suppliers, and marketing agencies, the entire ecosystem that supported the luxury auto segment, was suddenly thrown into turmoil. Within a single night, the world of German luxury cars in America virtually vanished. Despite mounting backlash, the Trump administration stood firm. "We are protecting national interests," a White House statement declared. "These factories will either stay in America or disappear." For German automakers, the future now looks uncertain. BMW's Spartanburg facility, the production hub for its world-renowned X-Series SUVs, faces the risk of shutdown or relocation. Mercedes' long-running Tuscaloosa plant, which has provided thousands of American jobs for decades, is in a similar predicament. Production lines are quietly being scaled back or moved abroad. At their peak, Mercedes, BMW, and Audi dominated the US luxury car segment. By the end of 2024, Just before their withdrawal, the three brands together sold around 950,000 vehicles, generating between $55 and $60 billion in revenue, roughly 6% of the entire US auto market. Losing such a massive portion of the market in such a short time sent shockwaves through the economy, wiping out tens of billions in annual revenue. To put it in perspective, BMW's Spartanburg plant produced an average of 270,000 SUVs a year, about 70% of which were sold in the US, generating roughly $14 billion in 2024. Mercedes' Alabama plant assembled around 260,000 SUVs annually from the GLC, GLE, and GLS lines, earning nearly $13 billion in combined domestic and export sales. Audi, which imported all its vehicles, sold between 230,000 and 250,000 units each year, generating about $15 billion in revenue. But Audi's dependence on imported components proved fatal once tariffs on key parts, like engines and digital systems, reached 200%. Overnight, production and imports became financially impossible. Assembly lines in Alabama and South Carolina became unviable, while brands like Audi teetered on the edge of insolvency in the US market. For years, these German automakers had made long-term bets on America, investing billions in research, design, and electric vehicle innovation. They envisioned the US as the centerpiece of the global EV revolution. Then, almost overnight, those plans were obliterated. Thousands of pages of strategy and investment turned to dust. As America closed its doors, Europe pivoted. China seized the opportunity, welcoming German brands with open arms. "Our doors are always open to German companies," Chinese officials declared. Soon after, new German research and design centers began sprouting across Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenzhen, signaling the start of a new chapter for Germany's automotive future. Beijing and Berlin have recently signed a series of major agreements focused on electric mobility and autonomous driving, marking the beginning of an unprecedented era of technological collaboration between the two nations. Mercedes-Benz quickly announced that it would move its entire electric vehicle platform development project, originally planned for the US, to China. BMW soon followed, revealing plans for a massive new production hub in Chengdu to replace its now suspended American initiative. Audi, seeing Asia's rapid growth and lower political risks, unveiled an ambitious plan to expand its long-term presence across the region. This shift represents a serious blow to the United States. The loss of Germany's three leading luxury car brands isn't just an economic setback, it's also a symbolic hit to America's reputation as a global center of manufacturing and innovation. Some believe this could open the door for domestic automakers like Ford and GM to regain market share. However, the reality is far more complex. The departure of German companies has deeply disrupted supply chains that depended on imported parts from Europe. As a result, production costs have risen sharply, pushing up car prices and forcing American consumers to pay more for the same vehicles. Economists point out that the Trump administration's tariff policy was intended to protect domestic manufacturing, but in practice, it's had the opposite effect. Instead of strengthening the US auto industry, the new tariffs have shaken its foundations, creating a period of instability and uncertainty. While some experts remain cautiously optimistic, suggesting that the US could eventually rebuild a stronger, more self-reliant supply chain, others warn that the situation is far from stable. Many technology firms and global investors are re-evaluating their strategies, worried that any foreign company could face similar risks in the future. The debate continues. Were these drastic measures truly necessary? Supporters of the policy argue that German automakers have long profited from the US market without investing enough to create real, lasting jobs in America. They claim President Trump was right to demand that manufacturing be brought onto US soil. Critics, however, tell a different story. They note that Mercedes-Benz has operated a plant in Alabama for decades, while BMW's facility in South Carolina has provided thousands of American jobs. Under the new tariffs, all of that progress has been undermined. If these companies can no longer turn a profit, their withdrawal becomes inevitable, one analyst observed. The question now is, who will ultimately benefit from this standoff? The answer remains uncertain. German automakers may find fresh opportunities in Asia, a region offering faster growth and greater political stability. Or they could one day return to the US if the business climate improves. Meanwhile, America is determined to accelerate its efforts to build a homegrown ecosystem for autonomous and electric vehicles. But for now, both sides are counting their losses. Across the Atlantic, Germany is rethinking its global trade strategy, arguing that Washington has become unpredictable and difficult to negotiate with. China, on the other hand, sees a golden opportunity, welcoming German brands, attracting advanced technology and luxury production, and solidifying its place as a leader in the global automotive industry. Analysts estimate that US automotive trade could shrink by as much as $40 to $45 billion, a staggering decline compared to the roughly $350 billion in total auto and parts imports recorded in 2024. Adding to the pain, many vehicles produced in American plants had been exported around the world. Models like the BMW X5 and X6, proudly stamped "Made in USA," were once shipped to Europe and Asia. With those export routes now blocked, US automotive exports are projected to drop by another $15 billion. In theory, losing German automakers might reduce America's reliance on imports. But in practice, it has eliminated a critical source of export revenue. The fallout doesn't stop there. Around 2,500 companies within the American automotive supply chain have been forced to close or downsize. These suppliers didn't just serve German manufacturers, they also supported domestic giants like Ford and GM. Yet much of their income came from contracts with Germany's automakers. With those partnerships gone, many are now considering relocating to Mexico or Canada to survive. Even so, the US remains one of the world's largest car markets, and filling the gap left by German brands will be no easy task. Economists estimate that the broader American automotive supply chain could lose up to $4 billion in production value. This entire episode serves as a stark reminder that no position in the global market is ever guaranteed. Even industry titans like Mercedes, BMW, and Audi can reach the end of the road in a country once considered essential to their success. The story of German luxury brands withdrawing from the United States highlights one powerful truth. In today's interconnected world, everything can change overnight. What are your thoughts on this dramatic shift? Share your views in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest updates from the Timefold channel.